Hello ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Anime Theory, where we finally decided to cover One Punch Man. Heck, maybe soon I'll get to those other shows people keep asking for. What were their names again? Kyoto Ghost and White Waiter? I don't know. Anyways, this spoiler section is a bit funky. Firstly, if you don't want to spoil anything from One Punch Man at all, then I'd suggest you go watch it first. Though there's only one spoiler in this theory of any note, besides the fact that if I'm right, I've basically spoiled everything, but I don't know. Well, we'll see how that turns out because it is a theory. Also, I need to mention that something from the manga is going to be in this theory, and though it's not something I'd consider a huge spoiler, I'll still note it now. It should be fine though, because it's nothing too huge, trust me. Also, yes, I realize I don't cover manga typically, but in this case, I think it's perfectly fine. The anime is basically a shot-for-shot version of the One Punch Man manga, so I don't have to worry about the drastic changes between the two. Figured I'd say it though, since somebody might get bothered by it. Anyways, One Punch Man. I think most, if not all people who watch anime have come into contact with it in one way or another. I mean, geez, this series was a huge deal when it was coming out, and it's still being talked about. I mean, what do you think I'm doing right now? Regardless, this is a series that people have wanted me to get to for a long while. And in fact, my next 3 theories are the same exact way. And I mean, why wouldn't people want me to talk about One Punch Man? I mean, it's a genuinely funny show with an awesome main character. So, what am I covering? His strength? Well, there are already others who have covered this, so I figured I'd go for something a bit more original. And oh boy, did I come up with something. You see, our bald-headed hero, as good as he may be now, is soon going to head down a much darker path. You could even say that he'd turn evil. Evil! Let's dig right in and see how this could ever be possible. So, for this theory, I've got 3 major pieces of evidence that point to the fact that Caped Baldy may eventually join the dark side. Hear me out until the end, because all these points work in tandem to strengthen the overall theory. First, and probably the most unsurprising one, his sense of morality and his emotional state. Now, I need to make something clear here. Saitama is not completely emotionless. As we see throughout the series, he feels anger, depression, and is in a constant state of boredom. The problem is that, in his case, his emotional state is weakened and a bit all over the place. Sure, he can get angry and sad to an extent, but as he's explained, he's lost the ability to feel emotions in the normal way. He has no problem doing things that might make him seem weird, he has no problem lying about things even if told not to, and he will even have no issues destroying a larger area to get rid of a monster. His morality, or really lack thereof in some cases, has always been a bit off. I mean, sure, he's a hero and attempts to save people, but even when he does it, it's because he's getting a reward for it, doing it for fun, or because something bothers him. For example, take the Paradise Group, who had stolen mechanized suits fully capable of destroying buildings. He had no interest in stopping them until he found out that anyone who was bald would be mistaken for them. For the most part, his reasoning for saving people has always been for a selfish reason, and even then, he oftentimes causes huge damage to the surrounding area without really caring all that much. Now sure, I'd argue it's for the better in most cases, but unlike many other protagonists or even other heroes in this show who would like to minimize casualties and destruction, Saitama just does things without thinking about it. And his antics actually get worse in the manga, where he actually has taken things from people, impersonated people, and barged into people's homes with little care whatsoever. Now sure, he does still save people, and heck, he endures some pretty ridiculous accusations from the citizens, who are perfectly fine with accusing him of causing all the problems instead of realizing that he basically saved them, but I'd argue that this might add to the issue overall. He's already not in a great place mentally, but he's also constantly receiving insults, gets blamed for the destruction of cities, and is constantly called a fake. All of these accusations and complaints could eventually take their effect and further destroy him mentally, which will dig farther into the second problem. You see, if I was only arguing this from a mental perspective, if that's all the evidence I had, then there'd be little reason for me to base this theory off of it. Him being mentally unstable is great and all, but he's endured it just fine so far. What exactly would be the tipping point that would cause him to get so crazy that he'd actually turn evil and kill people? I mean, heck, he basically hates Speed of Sound Sonic, yet he never actually kills him. Well, that's where the manga plot point comes in. You know, the one I mentioned earlier. Don't worry, it's nothing huge, but it may lead to something much bigger later. So, You ever wondered exactly where those monsters are coming from? Why they keep appearing so often and increasingly over the course of the series cause trouble? Well, there is a reason why they are popping up so much, because they are literally being created. In essence, most of them, if not all of the monsters in One Punch Man are created not from scratch, but from humans. You see, in the manga they reveal that, by consuming monster cells or really anything of the sort, a human will turn into a monster. They lose their humanity, but in exchange have the potential to gain much more power. In fact, that may well be why many of the monsters that aren't genetically made have human traits and can talk full-on English/Japanese. They were, at one point, human beings who were turned into monsters, likely from consuming monsters. Now, it's not like Saitama has ever... Oh no.
Oh no.
Yes, Saitama, on many occasions, has eaten monsters. Not just a small amount of something either. No, in some cases, he's eaten the whole giant monster on his own. Like, seriously, it's not even subtle. He does it constantly, and the manga especially is sure to point it out. Now, yes, it seems to play it off as a gag, but the choice to have him constantly and consistently eating monsters to save money before revealing that that's the exact way you turn into a monster, that can't be a coincidence. How has he not transformed already, though? Well, how do we know he hasn't? And even if he hasn't fully, we're talking about the most overpowered superhero who's ever existed. I think it would take a bit more than just consuming a couple monsters to take him down, but the effects have already shown. Throughout the manga, he only gets more and more emotionally detached. In fact, they made sure to mention that, without a doubt, once transformed into a monster, the user loses all sense of morals. Eventually, if he keeps going down this way, things may progress much farther than it already has. Now, I guess the one defining flaw in this theory is that, for now, we have only seen these pods transforming people, but on the other side, we don't have a clue what they're made of. Sure, maybe they aren't made of real monsters, but the fact that they outright call them monster cells means that there's a definite possibility they come from monsters. Cells are typically referred to as a part of the body, i.e., human cells come from humans. Yes, I realize this is clearly rocket science. Considering not only the naming conventions, but the fact that they are apparently living, that would imply that at the very least they come from monsters in some regards. So honestly, I don't think it's that big of a problem, and also this is a theory, i.e. it might be wrong or right. And finally, well, I mean seriously, think about all the foreshadowing. Genos has, in multiple cases, brought up the fact that things might get out of hand one day, and there's a constant prediction that something crazy is going to happen, something that could wipe out all of humanity. When we have monsters that could destroy the entire world without too much effort, what could be more dangerous than that? Well, imagine it. The entire city is destroyed, and everything is in ruins. People flee in fear as one man steps out. It zooms in, and suddenly, disaster level, Saitama. The whole world would be completely done, and considering that no one has held a candle to him so far, there will be no one that can truly stop him. Regardless, that's just my crazy theory. I hope you enjoyed it. And hey, why don't you check out some of my other videos, like this one on the character strength of Saitama, or perhaps check out my newest video. Also, be sure to subscribe if you like this kind of thing, and give me your thoughts in the comments below. Also, have a good sandwich.